Welcome to this episode of the Limitation is a Mirage podcast. Today I just want to talk about my week. So my week it's been quite quiet now. I was gearing up for the classes and courses that I was going to be working at this week and for the next 8 weeks, but because of different parts of the country getting locked down again, that sort of put a stop to them. Some of them have moved online, some of them we don't know what we're going to do with them just yet. So that's changed up my entire week. So again, this whole lockdown and COVID thing has helped me realize how adaptable I actually am to change. So I talk a lot about change. I talk about changing your diet, changing your sleep pattern, just making changes in your life that are going to be beneficial for you, that are going to optimize your life and make you a healthier person, both physically and mentally. And I've just got to see that over and over again. Me and Tom were talking from Chumsut about maybe about a week ago, talking about the martial arts. You always talk about adapting. You should adapt to your opponent. You should adapt to your skill level. You should adapt to your environment. If you're using it in the street, you can do things that you can't do in a cage, and you don't want to be doing things that you do in a cage in a street and vice versa. So you become adaptable, and then this whole craziness happens and a lot of people don't actually adapt. So that got me on to thinking about goals. Like, people have asked me about this a lot. How come I'm always talking about goal setting? And then what's it like to have so many goals? Do I ever fail at a goal? Do I ever achieve the goal early? Like, just what's it like? Like, I talked about achieving meeting Eric Thomas last week and it become not meeting him last week, talking about meeting him last week, and how that really messed up the rest of my plan because it was a long-term goal that I got in a short space of time. So being adaptable and when it connecting that up with goals means that I will change my goals. I've done it in the past. I wanted to be a martial arts instructor. That's what I wanted. I wanted my own studio, and then I realized that's not actually what I want. There's a bigger picture for what I want. So I was able to shift and change that goal. Even subtly, when I'm on stage, I might be talking about something, I do a Z scan of the audience, and I realize the audience isn't really paying attention, so I go, right, I need to change this up. Maybe I'll do a demonstration, maybe I'll do a magic trick, maybe I'll just completely change the topic. So this week, a couple times the topic of goals has come up, and one of the questions I get asked quite often is, how do you maintain the goals? So if you have set a goal, and then you set another goal, and then another, and eventually you've got 7 or 8 goals, starts to become overwhelming, and then you just let all of them fall to the wayside. And my thinking is that it's a weird way of putting it, but your goal is to create a habit. So it's habits over goals. You want your goal. So the easiest example is the meditation one that I started. It's one of the first goals I ever really set for myself personally. Like, the other ones were, like, the martial arts one was a goal, but it had somebody else pushing me. Like, Ian was pushing me to do what needed to be done. So the meditation one, nobody was telling me I had to do that. It was all on me. And the goal initially was 100 days in a row meditating without a break. And then the goal became 1,000 days. And then eventually I forgot to count. I stopped counting and it became a habit. And that made me think that that's where you really want to be. If I don't need to think, right, God, I need to meditate today, put that on the list. I just meditate. It's the last thing I do at night. It doesn't matter if I'm going to bed by myself or with someone else. I still will go and do my 5 minutes silent meditation at least. Maybe another meditation, depends what it is, if I haven't done one during the day. But always the 5-minute one, no matter what's happening, no matter where I am in the world, no matter who I'm with, that's what I'm doing. No matter what time it is. I remember helping out Shane on one of his runs, and by the time everything had been done and we got all packed up and got him home, it was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I still went home. I had to go to bed, and then I was going to a friend's wedding at 10, so I only had 3 hours. So really, a lot of people would just go straight to bed and get as much sleep as they could, but I just automatically sat in the bed in my meditative position, did my breaths, did my meditation, then went and had an hour's sleep, and then went on to the wedding. I showered before the wedding, obviously. But my point is that it didn't crop into my head like, oh, I'll just forget about it today, or this is hard, or I shouldn't have to do this. It was just a thing that I do. It's just a habit. I do it every day. And that's what you want to do. Your goals are your stepping stones. They're how you start and get going. You want to be able to have a tangible goal that you can measure, but after a while you want to turn that into a habit so that you don't have to think about it. So that was one of the things, like I'm wearing Ben's top, the deductionist. Whenever I first started working with Ben and he started teaching me about memory skills and how to use my observation skills that I had from the martial art background in every other area. Initially it was work. I had to like switch on. I'd be like, right, I'm going to switch on for the next hour when I'm out having a coffee. I'm going to switch on. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to look at people. I'm going to watch people. I'm going to see what they're doing. And now it's just like, I liken it to the Bourne Identity. If you haven't seen Bourne Identity, how do you describe Bourne Identity? Matt Damon is like a super soldier who forgets he's a super soldier and goes fishing and gets shot, and then like takes back control. I don't know, actually remember what the point of it is. He's like can remember everything, and which is quite ironic when I'm trying to describe it. But he switched on. There's a scene where he goes into a cafe or a diner, and he's able to say where the exits are, how many people there is, all that sort of stuff. That's what I liken it to now. Obviously not to that extreme, because it's unnecessary to be that switched on. There's a difference between being switched on, alert, and observing, and being super paranoid and needing to know everything. Personally, I like knowing where the exits are, where the staff are, the names of the staff, all that sort of stuff. I like it, but it's probably because of the people I was around in the industry that I was in. But initially, that was a goal I would set for myself. I'd go for a coffee today, and what I'm going to do is try to memorize everybody that's sitting where they're seated, and then if somebody asks me where someone's seated, I'll be able to tell them. And then it became more of a habit. You just go in and you notice. So there is a difference. Whenever I was doing it as a goal, I would be very, very aware. I would go in and I would know if you question me, like, who's wearing a red hat or where is the red hat, I would tell you exactly where it is. Now I'm just aware of the room, and if there's any alarm bells go off, if I think someone looks like they're going to be dangerous or aggressive or something like that, then I will clock them. But really now I'm just aware. So because I know when I put this out, people will ask me the next time they see me, what shirt is that guy wearing behind you? And I'm like, I don't know. I know there's a guy with a girl, but I don't know what they're wearing. I don't care enough for that. But if I'm working, whenever I was performing as a magician, I'd go on round tables. Like I used to go and memorize the names at weddings and the table numbers. So then when I went, I could rapidly build rapport by using people's names. It's a wee neat trick for people who are going to weddings. I know personally I've been at weddings where like I'm with a partner and they take me to a wedding where I know absolutely nobody, and then you sit at the table and there's a couple other people that don't know anybody, and I always build rapport faster because I make the effort of memorizing my table's name, and then I use their names whenever I'm there. So the skills initially have to be goal setting. You have to set the goal to improve the skill, to use the skill, but it should get to the point where it just becomes habitual, that you've created a habit. And that's what change is all about for me. Like, talk back to this whole madness that's going on now. I'm adaptable because I force change upon myself, and I've been in situations where change has happened to my life, to my family. So I've had to deal with change, and then I've created change. What I've found over the years of working with people is they find it difficult to deal with change because they've never created it for themselves. So it always is a bad thing, like it's an accident, or they get fired, or they get dumped, or somebody dies, or their pet dies, or something happens that causes change in their life. They're not happy about that because it's out of their hands. And yet if you ask them, have you ever just made a change for yourself? Have you ever left a job you weren't happy in, or left a partner you weren't happy in? Or have you ever just, instead of sitting and watching Emmerdale or some other shit soap, have you ever just got up and went for a walk? Have you ever created change for yourself so you know what it's like and know that you can deal with change? And a lot of people haven't, and that's why change for people is generally connected to a negative response. So being adaptable will help you create more and more goals. The more goals you create, the more habits that you can create. Once you create a good habit, then it stops taking your attention. You don't need to do it. You don't have to think about doing it. Like, if there's any smokers watching, a lot of you probably smoke like 20 cigarettes, and there's probably 11 or 12 of them that you don't think, I need a cigarette. You probably just go and smoke. Like, you have one after your breakfast, you have one after you've had sex, you have one after you have a cup of tea or whatever. Actually, I've never smoked or had sex with anyone that smokes, so I don't know if that's a thing. It might be a movie thing. You can let me know. That's quite off topic, but it just interested me there now. If anyone does like light up like the movies, feel free to let me know. I would be quite interested if that's a thing. But the point is that you're not thinking all the time about your negative habits. So once you start to implement positive ones, like whenever I work with people who want to improve their body and we start to get them exercising, one of the things I do is get them to daily walk or to do like daily squats or push-ups or something. Then all of a sudden, maybe a week later, or a week, 2 weeks later, they'll say, I actually supposed to be doing 10 push-ups, but I actually do about 15. But I never really noticed. I just get down and do them because I enjoy doing them. It just becomes something that you do. The problem that most people have is they don't do it enough or long enough for it to become a habit. So it's still a goal that you can fail at. Once you create the habit, it's sort of locked in there and you can just build on it or build more habits around that. So that's what I wanted to get through today. That was my main, the things that came up during the week. A lot of the time I try to talk about things that people ask me about or that I think is important or relevant in the situation that we're at now. So like if you think about it now, like a habit that would be great for people to take is first thing in the morning, maybe the first half hour, don't look at your phone, especially social media. If you're going for a walk or you're going to the gym or something, don't look at your phone, especially social media. And before you go to bed, maybe an hour before you go to bed, don't look at your phone, especially social media. The reason I'm picking on social media is because a lot of it is negative. A lot of it is just people bitching and moaning, and especially in this environment we're in now, that there's a pandemic of conspiracies, there's just negative shit. I don't care what your belief is, but you can't sit there and tell me that negativity isn't going to affect you. Whether you fully believe in a pandemic, whether you fully believe in any of the conspiracies, whether you fully believe that badgers are made up by the council because no one's ever seen a live one, whatever it is that you believe, that's fine. If there's a negative story about that, then that is going to affect you in a way that's going to pull you down and actually drain you, and that's just a shit way to live your life. So taking time off from social media is going to be a brilliant habit to create, especially in this sort of environment. You're going to get more done. So your downtime then becomes listening to a podcast, reading a book, walking in nature, and actually listening to nature. Like, nature's amazing, and the more you detach from the human world when you're out there, the better it's going to be for you. So when I'm out there, I don't listen to music. I very rarely take my phone unless I purposely know I'm going to do a video or I want to take some shots when I'm out. A lot of the time I'll put my phone away somewhere or switch it off. I'll do my walk and then I'll look at taking pictures, taking videos, whatever it is. So start looking at habits, or start looking at goals first, and then use the understanding that the goal isn't the goal. The goal is to create the habit. So that's where you actually want to get. So habits over goals, that's what we are aiming for. It's what I aim for with all my clients, what I aim for in general with myself. And it's why, to answer the question that is asked quite often of me, how do I stay on top of everything? How am I so positive? Why do I do the things that I do? How do I react the way I react to things when I'm surrounded by negativity and things that are pulling other people down? It's because I've created so many healthy habits. Like, I eat healthy 90% of the time. I sleep for 8 to 9 hours, whatever. One problem I have is a sleeping pattern. I don't really have a pattern, but I always try to get 8 to 9 hours, and about 90% of the time I'm hitting that. I drink plenty of water. This is the first podcast I did without water beside me, I've just noticed. So this is probably the longest I've went without water around me. I go out in nature, even if it's just standing in my garden. I go, Dad told me earlier today that the Northern Lights are going to be clear. You're going to be able to see them. So I'm going to go after this and go to Pigeon Top and look at the Northern Lights. You'll be seeing this on Wednesday morning, so I'll not be there then, hopefully. But I'm going to go on Tuesday night in the past from where you're listening to this now. Everything around me is like the weapons and the superhero stuff and my book. And everything around me is connected to things that I love. Like even just right beside me, there's like a wee moon, light up moon thing that looks far better when there's no lights on it, but you can still see it lighting, kind of. Everything around me is designed to engage my thinking towards things that I like. Like this thing here was given to me by Ian. So I did an interview with Ian. Ian, if you haven't seen it, I'll link it below. He was my first martial arts instructor. And this is in the olden Kung Fu movies. They would have cut the top of it and attached a cork, and then they would have put drink in it. And my favorite Kung Fu movie is Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. And the Drunken Master has a staff, and he has one of those attached to it, and that's where he drinks out of. So that just... I love that movie. I've watched it more times than I've watched any other movie, I would imagine. To the point that, like, I used to think I could understand Chinese quite a bit. Cantonese. I thought I could understand it quite well. And then I realized I can't. I've just watched the film so much that I just know what's about to happen. The books that I read are all connected to things that I like. I very rarely read anything about anything I'm not interested in. The only time I will do that is if I'm working with a company and they deal with a certain product or a certain... I remember doing it with an energy efficient company. I had to do training for the group, and then I had to do a magic routine for about 40 minutes. So I read up on all of the things they work in, all the type of concrete that they use, and the solar power they use, and all of the stuff that I have no interest in, but I wanted to put on the best show possible, and I wanted to deliver. I wanted to use terms that they would connect with and understand. So that's when I'll read things that I'm not interested in. Most of the videos I watch on YouTube are all connected to things that I'm interested in. I don't watch a lot of motivational stuff. Apart from, there's about 3 videos I'll watch before I do a video or a podcast or go on stage because it gets me psyched out. But I don't go hooking through for motivation. I just look at things that I enjoy in my life in general. And that's what creates my positive outlook and keeps me on a positive path. So my main point to get across today is habits over goals. If you have any questions or you want me to talk about anything on a podcast, like last week I talked about archery because that's what I was asked, one of the things I was asked. So it doesn't have to be anything I've ever talked about or anything even that you find relevant to what I'm talking about. If I have any knowledge on it, I'll discuss it. If not, I'll just tell you. So yeah, just reach out to me. I'm very approachable. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please share them with other people and hit the wee like and subscribe and the wee bell if you want to be notified of other videos that I do. And I hope you have an amazing day, whatever you get up to, and I will speak to you again soon.